Hi, this is Chrissie B with beautifulcreatives.com. I put out new content every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday. So if you haven't done so already, please feel free to subscribe. Today for Mixed Media Technique video, I thought I would show you how I go about customizing my tissue paper. I'm going to show you 3 different ways that I customize my tissue paper. And I'm going to start with the easiest first. So what you're going to need to do this particular technique is for all 3 of these, you're going to need some white tissue paper. The cheaper, the better. Trust me on that. Cheap. Cheap, 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 thin, thin, thin. You're going to need some stamps. You can use the clear stamps, but you'll need to have a stamp block for it because you really want to make sure you get a good impression down. I like using the wood-mounted blocks for that. However, if I only have the clear-mounted, works absolutely fine. I just find that having to find a block and the stamp is a little too fussy for me. I have a very short attention span, ADD, sorry. So I have a few of those out ready to go. You're also going to want some permanent ink, and whether that's StazOn or Ranger, those are the 2 that I use. I really like those both a lot. I have bunches of colors to use at my disposal. It really doesn't matter which color you use. The only thing to keep in mind when you're using different colors for your stamping is that you're going to want to make sure that you keep in mind that the colors will show on your art journal page. So if you do like a whole rainbow of colors on your tissue paper, you're going to have to concentrate a little bit more when you put it on your art journal page because you'll need to be able to like work it into the design. So that's totally up to you. A lot of my pages just use jet black just because it's super easy. I don't really have to think about it. It's just there. So for today's purposes, I'm going to just use the StazOn jet black. Other things you're going to want is an assortment of Sharpies. Sharpies are awesome because they are permanent. Once they dry, they are down. I mean, they're not going to move. They're not going to bleed. The other thing that I need to do these 3 techniques are the Tim Holtz Distress Stain. I have a lot of these, so you'll want a little bit. You'll want 2 or 3 different distress stains that go together. So finally, you'll need a craft mat or a sheet of cardboard or something to protect your surface because this will get messy. You will also need to have a water bottle filled with water. That will be handy. Let's get started. So for this first technique, you're only going to need 1 sheet of tissue paper, but you're also going to use your StazOn. So pull your StazOn out. Make sure it's out there ready. Apparently this one does not want to be opened, but I'm opening it anyways. And then pick out a few stamps. All of the stamps don't all have to be the same. I've done them both ways where you take one like this, like one texture stamp and stamp over the entire thing. That's really good if you want to take your 1 piece of tissue paper and put it over an entire spread. That's really handy. Another way that I have a tendency to do it is I will choose lots of different designs and just stamp all over it until the whole thing is full. And then when I come back to use these later on, then I just pick which design I want. So say I want this design and this design in my art journal page, and I will just tear those pictures out and leave all the rest. So I think that's where I'm going to go today with it, is doing lots of different random images, because that's kind of how I art journal anyways. I don't really ever have a plan when I start. I just want to get started. So let's get started. Making sure that your tissue paper is on the craft mat or the piece of cardboard or whatever it is that's protecting your background, because this ink will go through the tissue paper and it will bleed onto whatever's underneath here. So stamp up your image, however you want to do that. And just stamp it down. And remember, because these are going to be in the background, they don't have to be perfect. If you want to use an image, like say you want to have a butterfly on your art journal page, and you want it to be as near perfect as possible, this is a really good technique because you can stamp your butterfly stamp and put it down. And if it's not perfect, you can do it again. If it's not perfect, do it again. If it's not perfect, do it again. And once you get the one that makes you happy, then that's the one that you're going to cut out or tear out to use in your design. and it will look like that you have done a perfect stamp onto your art journal page. Okay, so I kind of lied because I just started going. What I'm doing right now is, if you see, I'm using this signature or this handwriting stamp, and I'm basically just stamping all the way across and kind of letting the edges touch or overlap just a little bit. This is how I would do a full background piece. If I wanted this particular design over my entire background, that's what I would use. I would do it the same technique. So I'm gonna finish this on this little fold, this little piece of the tissue paper. And I'm finding that this particular stays on pad is not quite as juicy as I normally like it, but for what we are doing, it is perfect, because perfection is not the goal. Perfection causes you to have too much anxiety about doing this. And some of us who don't feel like we're quite yet artists have a tendency to have a little bit of anxiety about arting anyway. So if you just start from the get-go knowing that perfection's not the goal, then you're gonna be good to go. So now I'm just gonna start laying down stamps, and I don't really like the quality of that. And instead of taking the time to re-ink this pad, because that's what I would do right now, is I normally take the time to stop and re-ink it. I'm just gonna grab a different pad. And I'm gonna use a Ranger Archival ink, the big one, just to make it go a little faster. Better, mo better. And I like this design a lot, so I'm gonna make sure I have a few of these at the ready. So if I wanna use them on multiple pages, I have multiple images to be able to choose from. And I'm not sure why I'm being so linear. I don't usually stamp in lines. I usually stamp in like big sporadic messes, really. But apparently I am on a kick today, so I'm gonna just go with it. And some of these images are coming out really nice and clean, and some of them not so much. And that's totally fine. I think they come out better. Now, this is kind of how I gauge how to do this. If you have a lot of space where it's going to actually touch down on your paper, I find that if I ink my stamp up really well as I can, and then I'm going to set it down, and then I'm going to kind of press it and hold it. Now in my head, this may be totally hooey, but in my head, the longer I keep it down, the longer the ink has the chance to actually soak into the tissue paper. And that's a terrible print, but let's try it again. That's better. It seems to be a little bit crisper, if that makes sense. Grabbing another archival ink pad, same color, same. And this time I'm gonna change it up a little bit. The only thing to keep in mind is if you're gonna tear these images out, you wanna make sure that the images are far enough apart from each other that you don't have to like stress out about accidentally tearing an image that it's sitting next to. Does that make sense? Oh, this ink pad is so much better. Always come to the party prepared, kids. Always come to the party prepared. Let's do another one of these stamps. Like it, like it, like it so much. This is more like how I normally stamp. And I usually do this a lot with friends, where we bring some of our favorite design stamps and we all bring white tissue paper and we just basically sit around chatting, having fun, giggling, and being silly, and trading stamps and just sharing. And by the time you leave, you end up having so many of these sheets to choose from. It's kind of cool, actually. It's one of my favorite things. So there's really no like hard rules about this. You just kind of do it until you don't want to do it anymore. That's generally how I do a lot of things in life. Do it till you don't want to. Okay, so I think you generally have the idea on how I do it, how I customize my tissue paper using stamps. Stamps, permanent ink. Now, if I want to use any of these images, I just have to tear them out. You can cut them out if you want to. The only thing to keep in mind, if you cut them out versus tearing them out, they don't melt into the background quite as well if you cut it out, because there's a hard edge that has a tendency to stay. So if I cut this particular design out and I cut a square around it, I generally can tell there's a square around this image when I put it down on my art journal page. I find that if you tear it, it hides a little bit better, it kind of camouflages a little bit better. However, if you feel like cutting it, that is absolutely fine. Do it however you want. Everything that I'm ever going to tell you are always suggestions. They are not hard, fast rules. That is the perk of being a mixed media artist and doing mixed media art journaling, because I mean, there are no rules. You just make this crap up as you go, and if you find something that works, you just keep doing it. It now becomes a rule for you, but rules are always changing, and rules are meant to be broken. So the next technique I'm going to do, this tissue paper for whatever reason is a little bit shinier. Oops, and I picked up some ink down below, and that's fine. I'm going to just go with it. I'm going to take two or three pieces of tissue paper, and I'm going to leave them straight on top of each other. This technique, if I'm doing this technique, I like to do this in front of the television when I'm watching a movie, or you know, just mindlessly watching whatever on TV, because, let's finish getting to that first. Okay. So I don't know if you can see this, but I have picked up some of the ink that was still on my craft mat. However, that's totally fine. It's all going to be camouflaged when we are all done, and the tissue paper gets put down onto our whatevs, our art journals. I'm going to choose a few different colors, and all I'm going to do, this is so easy, all I'm going to do is doodle on the piece of tissue paper. There's nothing difficult about this. There's no right or wrong way to do it. The only thing that you want to make sure is that you have something underneath it, because the ink will go through all three layers. So make sure that you've got your surface very well protected. And you can do whatever you want. There's really no rules, but I'm going to let some music play for a few minutes as I do some doodling, and then you can kind of just watch. Okay, so I think you see you can do whatever you want on here. Doodle to your heart's content. You can draw something gorgeous, or you can do what I've done is basically just doodled. There's so many different things you can do. Now, the cool thing about this is, one, this is a really easy way to add words to your art journal pages without having to worry about trying to write in nice handwriting over the top of a bunch of different textury kind of things. You can take something like this, you can do anything, and you can just tear this out and put it onto your art journal page and gel medium it down, and it is good to go. And because this is a flat surface that I'm writing on, I generally can get a little bit nicer handwriting than if I'm trying to write in my art journal page over a bunch of textures. I don't know if you noticed this right here, but I actually tore the tissue paper. Totally fine, not a big deal. When you gel medium it down, you'll never notice that you tore it. Yeah. So I like to keep multiple sheets down because you then have like a ghosted image, which these types are really good if you just need like a subtle, I really like using these a lot for the backgrounds because you just need a subtle print. The thing to keep in mind is if you really want this ghosted one to be really crisp as it possibly can be, you're going to want to use really new juicy Sharpie pens. Okay, so keep that in mind. You can kind of tell that my pink is a little bit juicier than some of the others, my blue, this funky blue, my green, but yeah. And also, if you want the images to really come through to the second and third layer, you'll want to go really slow over the top because the longer you keep your felt, the tip, on your art journal page or on your tissue paper, the longer you keep your tip of the pen on the art journal page, the more ink will flow and sink down through your layers. So that is another way that I like to customize my tissue paper. But again, I really enjoy doing this where I just have a big sheet of cardboard. I sit on the floor in the living room while I'm watching television or listening to television, and I just doodle my little heart away. Now generally when I do this, I have a tendency to do one design across the entire thing, and that is my sheet. I don't generally have a tendency to doodle quite as much as this, but I'm kind of in that mood right now, so that's why it came out that way. So, for the last technique, and the messiest technique of the three. This one happens to be one of my faves. I'm going to use 2 sheets of tissue paper for this one. Keep them together. Folding tissue paper back up is kind of like folding a map back up. It's not always terribly easy. And it never quite looks as small or as nice as when it first comes out of the package. Now I have 2 sheets here, but what I want to do is on mine, there's a shiny side and a flat side, a matte side. So I'm going to put the matte side up, but I'm going to fold shiny side to shiny side. So I'm folding the whole thing in half because this is going to get messy. Now that we were really fussy about like making sure it's nice and folded, we're going to crumple it all up. Okay? Doesn't have to be too terribly tight, but crumpled is good. And I'm going to kind of flatten it out just a little bit. Okay, and this will get messy, so I might go find a glove real fast or 2. So give me a minute. I'll be right back. Okay, so I found myself some gloves. I have a box of gloves that I bought from the hardware store. It's the same kind of glove you would use if you were like a lunch lady at a school or something. I don't usually use them, but for this, I definitely am going to. Okay, and I'm going to choose 3 colors of my distress stain. And honestly, I don't remember exactly what shade these are when they come out, so we're going to kind of take a leap of faith here. And I'm using tumbled stain, tumbled glass, peacock feathers, and mermaid lagoon. Okay. I'm going to open each one. 1, 2, 3. And you can tell that my mermaid lagoon has not been opened yet, so I'm going to just start it. And to do that, all you have to do is push down like that. And because I started with that one, I'm going to just start here with it. And you're just going to push some ink onto your tissue paper. Okay, fold it onto itself. Just kind of keep daubering it on. I'm wearing a white shirt. I probably should have an apron on, but of course I don't. Again, too fussy, too much work. Too troublesome. Kind of roll it into itself. You're just kind of wanting to get the ink all over. Put a little more. Dab, 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 dab. Again, not rocket science. There's no like real rules about it. Just do it however you feel comfortable with. This is a really good mushing technique. Just mush it all together. I kind of feel like it's like a really wonkified tie-dye that we're doing. I'm going to change colors, and I'm going to go to peacock feathers. And it needs to be pumped. There it goes. Different shade of blue. And just kind of dab it all over. Don't worry if the different color inks touch each other, the different color daubs touch each other, that's fine. You really will want that. And just keep... Do you see what I'm doing? I don't know how to describe this. I'm basically uncrumpling it and crumpling it back up again so I can get new piece. I can make sure there's color everywhere. I really don't want a lot of white. Okay, that's generally how that's working. And mush it back together again. Let everything kind of like become friends. Uncrumple, crumple it again. Okay, then I'm gonna go to the tumble glass. I think it's a really, really light shade of blue. It is. So this one might be a little bit mousy. That's okay. Keep going. At any point, you can take this and open it up and see what colors you might want to add to it. Are you doing well? Is it missing a color? Do you want it to be more heavily one color versus another? That's totally up to you. This tumble glass is really, really, really light. It's very pastel, so it's kind of hard to see. But I like the idea of there being 3 different colors in here. This color, which is the Emerald Lagoon, or the Mermaid Lagoon, oh my gosh, love it so much. La 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 la. But I think I need to have some more of the peacock color. I don't like that it's not everywhere. And apparently our landscaping dude has showed up today, so forgive the noise. It's kind of the nature of living where I live. Now over here, I daubered some ink down there, so I'm just going to pick it up real quick. I don't want to waste any of it. Just kind of moosh into it. And you just keep doing this until you're happy with it. Okay, I'm not sure how much that lost. My camera cut itself out because it's being persnickety. So basically, you're gonna just keep doing that until you're happy with it. If you want the colors to spread a little bit more, get your water bottle and spray your tissue paper with some water. And hopefully that will help the colors kind of bleed into each other a little bit. And just keep mushing it together. Like so. I'm using it like a wash rag to wipe up the ink that's on the craft mat. And you see what we've got going here? Now it's okay if you've torn pieces, that's not a big deal. When you gel medium it down onto your art journal, it will all come together, I promise. So then what I would do with this is I will probably leave it folded because I really want it to stay on top of my craft mat so it doesn't stain anything else. But I'm just gonna let this dry and let it dry overnight. Or come check on it. Or if you are feeling froggy and want to get it done now, then go ahead and use your heat tool. If I were using this today, that's probably what I would do. Just kind of adding some water, letting the color bleed a little bit. And that is the third technique, my friends, just like that. Easy, easy, easy peasy. So I will probably let mine dry just like that. So there you have it. There are my 3 favorite techniques for customizing my tissue paper. And I would love to hear in the comment section if you are gonna give any one of these techniques a try. I'd love to hear how it works for you. And if you have any other ways to customize your tissue paper, let us know down in the comment section below. I'm sure that, I know for myself, I'd love to find out some new ways to do this. And I'm sure that some of our other friends joining us would like that as well. So please feel free to leave a comment in the comment section down below. And I hope you enjoyed today's video. Don't forget to thumbs up and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. I love you bunches. And I will see you soon. Bye for now.